Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel for another quick how-to guide. Today we are taking a look at Shuri. So Shuri is a champion that I didn't like at all when she was released. However, the details of her rebalancing are available as of right now, and the changes that Kabam has made to her go a long way in fixing the issues that I had with her previously. So her ramp up is now shorter and easier to do, and maintaining her damage over time is now way less stressful than it was before. So while I still think she's targeted for high health content, she is now much more usable in shorter fights. Okay, let's start with the first question on your mind if you clicked on this video, and that is, does Shuri need Awakened? And the answer is absolutely not. So Shuri's dupe is definitely a nice to have. It gives her some utility, some additional tankiness, but it has zero effect on her damage output whatsoever, so feel free to rank her up unduped. Alright, let's jump right into some gameplay here. So, when you block with Shuri, she gains a matrix charge, and when you parry, she's going to gain 5. You can then convert these charges into shock debuffs with your basic hits. So keep doing this while you build up to just under 2 bars of power. You want at least 10 shocks on the opponent. If you can get to 20, that's the ideal situation. And then from here, fire off your special 1. That's going to refresh the shocks and give you a bunch of precision passives. So what you want to do next is parry and then land a heavy attack. When you land a heavy, that's going to consume the precisions and convert that many shock debuffs into critical shock passives. From here, you can already kind of see the damage numbers climbing. We're doing about 2200 damage per second from just a few of those critical shocks. Now build up to your special 2, heavy to refresh the shocks if you need to. The special 2 is going to add new shock debuffs for every critical shock passive, and then from here you can start the rotation all over again. Special 1, heavy, special 2, repeat as necessary. So you can kind of see the loop here. You're using your shock debuffs to make critical shock passives, and then you're using the critical shock passives to make new shock debuffs. And then you're keeping everything paused with your heavy attack and with every hit on both the special 1 and special 2. So with the rebalance, the stack limit for her shock effects has been reduced from 99 to 50, but their potency has been doubled, so you're going to be doing more damage as you ramp than you were before. Max ramp takes about 100 hits or so. You can see we're about a minute in here. We've already done roughly 250,000 damage, which is more than enough to finish most Battlegrounds fights. Okay, quickly let's review the rotation. Start with a parry, use your basic attacks to apply shock debuffs to the defender, build yourself up to close to 2 bars of power, and then use your special 1 to gain a number of precision passives on yourself. From there, you can use a heavy attack to immediately convert all of those precision passives into critical shock passives on the defender. Now, optionally, you can instead convert those precision passives one by one with your basic attacks. Each precision makes your next hit a guaranteed crit, so in shorter fights like Battlegrounds, you can get a nice amount of damage from the crits themselves in addition to the critical shock passives that you are applying one by one. Either way, you can then build up to your special 2, which is going to apply a shock debuff for every critical shock passive, and then from there repeat as necessary from step 2. Now, when you're fully ramped and are working on maintaining her damage, you really don't need her special 1 or special 2 anymore. So at that point, you can then switch to spamming her special 3, but you really only need to do this in really long fights. So after the rebalance, Shuri's shock effects are capped at 50 each now, and it's going to take roughly 100 hits, give or take, to reach that maximum. But you're going to be doing a lot of damage along the way. Once you're fully ramped with 50 of each shock, maintaining that damage is as easy as landing a heavy attack every now and then in order to refresh everything. So let's talk about that special 3 for a moment, which inflicts a flat amount of direct damage per shock effect on the defender. So at rank 3, that damage is going to total around 120k, and at rank 4, it's going to be around 150k. So in a very long fight like this one against Labyrinth Star-Lord, once you're fully ramped and continuously refreshing those shocks with your heavy attack, you can just repeatedly build to your special 3 and fire it off to do a nice chunk of damage. And since this is secondary damage, it's going to get around the damage cap in both Labyrinth and Abyss. Alright, let's talk synergies for a moment here. So before Shuri's rebalance, I would have said that the Misty Knight synergy here was probably required for playing her, just because of how easily you could lose all of your shock effects against like a particularly passive AI, and that's really no longer the case. Not only can you still refresh those shocks with your heavy, but all hits on both your special 1 and your special 2 will refresh the shocks, so maintaining that level of damage over time is actually much simpler than it was before. That said, the Misty Knight synergy here, still probably the best one she has. It gives her a significant boost to her total damage output by increasing the potency of shock effects by 20%. You can also get an additional 10% potency to shock effects by adding Black Panther as well. And again, neither of these synergies are required for playing her, but if you're going to be using Shuri in high health content like I think she's targeted for, these are going to make that content a little bit faster for you. Okay, last thing I want to talk about is some of Shuri's utility, since I think she'll be much more useful in Battlegrounds going forward once these rebalance changes go live. So she has no natural buffs for starters, and she's immune to the precision buff from Dexterity, so you can safely take her into a matchup against someone like Mojo and be just fine. She's also immune to ability accuracy modifications, so you can also take her up against a Domino as well. And finally, all of her attacks are non-contact energy attacks, and combined with her ability to easily place lots of shock effects, I think that probably makes her the best Attuma counter in the game right now. Attuma, by the way, also got a rebalance, and his chance to deal Thorns damage has doubled from 15% to 30% per hit, but Shuri won't take any of that damage because all of her attacks are non-contact, and then the shocks are going to keep his hydration under control as well. That's going to do it for the guide. I am very happy with how Shuri turned out after the rebalance, and so much so that I actually ranked up mine to rank 3 on the live server just yesterday, the day before I think it was. If you've made it this far into the guide, please leave a comment below, Wakanda Forever, so that I know you made it. Also, please consider subscribing if you aren't already. Just takes a moment. You can always change your mind later. As always, thank you very much for watching. See you again next time.